Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Today we are going to talk about lipstick and more specifically lipstick trends in the 20th and 21st centuries. Lipstick is one of my personal favorite makeup items. I feel like it's one of the elements in makeup that you can make the biggest difference with. And lipstick is also one of the oldest and most popular makeup items in history and actually has been around since prehistoric times. But the quickest and most noticeable changes in lipstick trends have happened in the 20th century. So today I wanted to start at the beginning and walk you through everything that happened to lip colors and shapes and textures and everything, starting from 1900 until the 2010s. I'm gonna try to keep it short and snappy, so let's get started straight away. The 1900s. The 1900s are a little bit of a breaking point when it comes to makeup history. Before this, we went through a rather long period where makeup was absolutely unacceptable. We have the Victorian time where purity was very important for women and wearing makeup was very much frowned upon. You were supposed to have natural beauty through skincare, and health, and makeup was very strongly associated with women of loose morals. When the 1900s come around in the Edwardian era, makeup is a little bit more accepted, but still definitely not mainstream. It is still very much the domain of stage and film actresses who obviously needed makeup to make their faces more noticeable and give them more expression on stage and in film. But this is also the time in history where actresses start to no longer be looked down upon, but start to actually be admired and taken as examples for beauty. Actresses appear in, cosmetic ads for the first time, and there is just a very subtle beginning of a shift in attitude towards makeup. Also towards the late 19th century, early 20th century is when we start to see actual makeup brands coming up. So for the first time ever, you have brands that are focused on women's cosmetics, but not skincare or perfume. So it's really only makeup, which was completely unthinkable just a few decades before. But still, your average everyday woman would only have worn a little bit of powder, some blush, and a little bit of lipstick. Rouge was a product that was used for centuries, and it is essentially red paint in, some shape or form that can be used for cheeks and lips. So in the 1900s, lips would have mostly just been tinted, very subtle, definitely no harsh lines. You don't want to wear any visible makeup, but keep it nice and subtle, as if you have very rosy, beautiful lips, well, naturally. So in the 1910s, this trend is really amplified and makeup becomes more and more acceptable for normal women as well. In the 1900s, we actually have the first makeup counter, which brings makeup to the mainstream and makes it acceptable for women to actually buy. Before this, women would often use all these kind of sneaky little secret methods to come by makeup, but now it was more acceptable to just buy it in the open, try it out by the counter, have this salesperson tell you what to buy, advise you. And these makeup counters quickly spread throughout the Western world. And with that, more makeup brands emerged. Many of the makeup brands we still know nowadays originate in the early 20th century. And it is said that the first lipstick tube, a little bit different from how we know it nowadays, but still the first kind of bullet-shaped lipstick, was invented in 1915. At first, lipsticks had a packaging where you would push the lipstick up, and then a few years later the twist-in lipstick, as we know it nowadays, was invented as well and patented. So even though makeup was more easily accessible and a little bit more accepted, makeup looks were still very natural, still very much emphasized on no makeup and just enhancing natural beauty. However, all of that changed when the 1920s came around. By this time, the taboo on makeup was completely lifted and women went all out, not just stage actresses or film actresses, but women in everyday life. For the first time in centuries, makeup could be seen again. And it actually became something that was desired rather than looked down upon. So lipstick in the 1920s was all about shaping. We all know that iconic 20s lip with the very sharp cupid's bow, the small doll-like lips. The 20s were all about that, and it didn't matter how much you had to change your natural lip shape. In fact, these little metal templates were sold with a lip shape cutout that you could trace onto your own lips to get the perfect lip shape. As far as colors go, reds were definitely still the most popular color, as they had been, for pretty much all of history. But in the 1920s, some darker shades came into fashion, and the range of colors slowly started expanding as well. By the 1930s, the use of lipstick was so widespread that nearly every woman owned a lipstick tube, and often even several of them. By this time, lipstick was sold and advertised everywhere. It was completely out in the public eye. As far as shape goes, the dominant shape of the 30s was very much horizontal rather than the vertical lines of the 1920s. So you had to return to a bit more of a natural lip shape. Emphasize on bit because it was still heavily contoured and altered and perfected according to their standards. So you were definitely encouraged to overdraw or underdraw to get the perfect desired shape. As far as color goes, definitely still red. Lipsticks were mostly matte or with a slight kind of creamy finish. So then we move on to the 1940s. And of course, this is the time of the Second World War, where pretty much anything was rationed. But funnily enough, lipstick was still a staple. It was one of the few makeup items that was still produced, at least in the USA. It was, as it was supposed to provide a certain sense of normalcy to the women that had to work, unconventional jobs, of course. And it was also said to boost morale, and women were even encouraged to send lipstick kisses on their letters to men at the war front. Red was still the color. There was a little variation in the 40s. Of course, you had different shades of red, but we don't really see different colors yet. Lipsticks were still matte to slightly creamy. And as far as the shape goes, full lips were the ideal in the 40s, and overdrawing with a lip pencil was encouraged if your own lips weren't satisfactory. The 1950s, the age of glamour. I am sure that we are all familiar with the very iconic 50s red lip, Marilyn Monroe lips, but the 1950s also marked the beginning of, rising popularity of other lipstick colors. So pinks were very popular in the 1950s, also purples, and of course your classic reds were still popular as well, but there was a lot more experimentation when it came to color in the 50s. So as far as the shape goes, we are moving to a little bit more of a natural shape in the 40s, but still overdrawing kind of lush full lips were encouraged. You can often see women wearing this kind of almost smile shape where the top lip is exaggerated a little bit compared to the bottom lip, which is left, more natural shaped. They call this the smile effect. It kind of lifts the outside corners of the lips, makes it kind of look like you're smiling, but it needs to be done very well or it can look a bit creepy. But you can often see this lipstick shape on Audrey Hepburn, for example. So in the 1960s, for the first time in a long time, focus is actually shifted away from the lips and towards the eyes. The 60s are all about the eyes, big, bright, full luscious lashes, and the lips are very understated. They aren't overdrawn, they're not underdrawn, shape isn't really changed. We move definitely towards more nude and natural shades, lighter shades, pinks, corals. So the 1960s really aren't the most interesting times for lipstick if you ask me personally. But if we then look to the 1970s, this is the era of the bronzed goddess look. The 70s were another time of, natural beauty, the no makeup look, but it was done in a very different way than it was in the early 20th century because it was supposed to look natural and kind of healthy, glowy, but it was acceptable and even desired to still look made up and kind of, presentable and like you put some effort into your looks. So we see a lot of kind of bronzy shades, warm makeup, and that goes for the lips as well. The popular colors were pinks and peaches mostly for daytime, with some brighter colors for nighttime. The 1970s marked the rise of the lip gloss and shiny lipsticks and just anything that looked, slick and shiny and bright. The lip shape is still very natural, definitely no lip liner in the 70s, and the lips are still pretty understated compared to the rest of the face makeup. Now, in case you're growing tired of the understated lips, fret not, so did the people who lived at the time, and now we have the 80s. I always love seeing how trends are a reaction to what came before. So after the supernatural kind of flower child makeup of the 70s, we go straight into the 1980s, which were the polar opposite of that. Out there, loud, crazy, over-the-top everything. So in the 1980s, we start seeing bright colors and novelty shades. For For the first time, colors like bright purples and even blue, green, black are seen for the first time and worn by both pop stars and adventurous, non-famous people. Shape wasn't that important in the 80s. I don't think there was a very popular or kind of mandatory lip shape in this time. It was all about the color and the finishes, which were mostly metallic or shiny. There isn't a lot of matte lipstick in the 80s. But then we have the 1990s, which are again a reaction to the bright, crazy, over-the-top 80s and go back to a much more muted, kind of neutral makeup look. So the 1990s are definitely marked by nude lipsticks. You have your browns, you have your brick colors, but it's all very kind of neutral shades in finishes that are honestly anywhere from frosted to matte. There was quite a big range of different finishes that were acceptable in the 90s. And of course, let's not forget about the visible lip liner trend from the late 90s, which kind of bled into the early 2000s as well, where you had a very obvious lip line in a darker shade, mostly brown, obviously, and then lips filled in with a much lighter shade, which was supposed to give the illusion of fuller, more luscious lips. The 2000s were the decade of lip gloss. Lip gloss was huge. You had your Lancome Juicy Tubes, and the lip gloss came in all kinds of colors and even finishes within the lip gloss. You had, of course, your glitters, iridescent colors, bright colors, subtle colors, but lip gloss. As far as lipstick colors go, you still had your brick colors, but also definitely this was the rise of the baby pinks, light lipsticks in general. This is also the time of the dreaded concealer lip or the just slightly too light nude lip, which of course contrasted beautifully with the tanned skin that was so popular in this time. In short, the 2000s equals lip gloss. And then, of course, most recently, we have the 2010s, in which color-wise, pretty much anything goes. We have a gigantic range of lip colors right now, and I feel like so many of them are acceptable to wear in daily life right now. We have trends, of course, coming and going. So, for example, the 1910s, I feel like really saw a return to nude colors and kind of the more 90s type colors. This is the time when liquid lipstick really became huge. There were loads of improvements in formula and color payoff and just quality in general, and liquid lipsticks really took off, and I feel like they became the norm for a while, and especially in matte finishes because they are very suitable to a matte product application. As far as shape goes, the 2010s were definitely the era of very full lips, almost to the extreme. We saw the rise of fillers, of course, that became much more mainstream than they had ever been before, and overdrawing, regardless of whether you already have the fillers or not. It was all about maximizing the lip shape. And that brings us where we are today, in 2020. I am really excited to see what lipstick and just makeup trends in general will do over the next couple of decades. It's always so much fun to look back on, trends from the past and cherry pick what we like and what we want to recreate in our daily looks. So I really hope you enjoyed this concise little history of lips. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for loads more beauty and lifestyle content. If you would like to support me through Patreon or my merch store, there will be links in the description box below. Thank you so much for your support. There is another video here that I think you might also enjoy. You can go watch next. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon in my next video.